I thought I'd do a quick comparison between the BMW i3 and the Nissan Leaf. They're very similar sized cars, similar sort of price bracket, although one is slightly more expensive than the other. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of my view on which is the better car and which has advantages where and disadvantages elsewhere. So one of the first things to talk about is how the car looks. I don't think the BMW is a particularly attractive car. It's okay, it's not the worst out there, but I do think it has a bit of a bull nose in some senses. But on the whole, it's okay. So the Nissan Leaf, well, like it or hate it, it's your opinion. Mine is, I think they could have done a far better job in designing a car. Yeah, I think it's quite an ugly looking, or probably even slightly boring looking from the side car as well. So the wheels on the BMW do look quite nice. They are a 19-inch wheel, but they are an odd tyre size. They are quite a thin wheel. Now that means that the tyres are much more expensive because they are not as common as the tyres on the Nissan. The fact that they're a bit thinner probably helps with the range and the economy as well. So the Nissan does have standard tyre sizes, which is great. It means you can go out and buy tyres for 50 quid a corner rather than more than 100 quid a corner. They are just normal tyres, not trying to be anything special, 19-inch skinny stuff, normal tyres. I've been using the BMW now for a few days and I'm quite impressed with the range. It seems to be very much along the lines of what they advertise. So Nissan advertised ranges on the Leaf, depending on what battery size you have, whether it's 24 kilowatt or 30 kilowatt. However, they will never reach the miles that they suggest. I mean, I think out of a 24 kilowatt, if you're getting 80 miles, then you're probably doing well. Out of 30 kilowatt, if you're probably getting near 100 miles, or maybe slightly more, you're probably doing okay. That you're not going to get anywhere near the 150 mile range or the 120 mile range that they advertise. One of the annoying features of the Nissan is when you're doing less than 19 miles an hour, it makes an annoying little screech. It's relatively quiet, but you do hear it inside the car. This isn't necessary, it's not required by any legislation or law because you don't get it on the other cars like the i3, but you do have a button to turn it off. The problem is it doesn't remember you've turned it off and you have to keep having to turn it off every time you get in the car. I'd rather it wasn't there altogether. One advantage of the BMW is that when it's running at low speed, there is no artificial noise that's created to try and warn pedestrians. I quite like the fact that it is silent, and I think that's a benefit. The acceleration on the BMW is quite impressive actually. I think it's probably the best in class. I'm not too sure what the figures are. I think it's around 7 seconds, but it's certainly considerably quicker than the Nissan. Like all electric cars, the Nissan is not slow off the mark. It does pick up speed very well. It does accelerate. Having the electric motors with its instant torque makes a huge difference. It's not as fast as the BMW though, by a long way. The BMW has this regenerative braking that's quite aggressive. It does pull the car right down to a halt and does apply the brake lights when it happens. This obviously helps the battery life and means you can drive it with one pedal. That might be a disadvantage or it might be an advantage. I'm not entirely convinced. I guess it is something you do get used to. The Nissan does have the regenerative braking as well. It's not on automatically, you have to turn it on, you put it in B mode or not. But it does seem to work okay. It does pull you down, but it won't pull you to a complete halt, and it doesn't slow you down enough to warrant putting the brake lights on either. So. Now the Nissan does come with a Sat-Nav. It is a touchscreen Sat-Nav, and you may think that's great until you try using it when you're driving. It's a bit awkward. The buttons here are a little bit too close together. If you go over a bump, you tend to miss the wrong thing, so you want to zoom in and you end up pushing the wrong thing there. I don't think it works anywhere near as well as the BMW Sat-Nav. In fact, I would say that this is probably the worst Sat-Nav I've ever had in any vehicle ever. Nav is considerably better in the BMW. There's no touchscreen, which is very awkward to use when you're driving, and it is just really controlled by the knob down here. Additionally, all the controls on the steering wheel, I think they all work quite well. They feel quite good quality. They're quite comprehensive, and they do add to the driving experience of the BMW. The controls on the steering wheel, well, they're okay, they're fine, they're very functional. These things do feel a little bit cheap and nasty. They don't feel quite the same quality as the BMW, but they're very functional and absolutely fine. The i3 has reversing sensors to help you when you're reversing. There's no camera or anything like that on this model. Unlike the parking sensors on the BMW, the Nissan has a reversing camera. To be fair, I think it's a bit gimmicky. I never use it. I find reversing with it very awkward, and so I just use the mirrors anyway. But needless to say, it's there for those who like those sort of things. The i3 has 4 seats, as it uses the middle seat at the back for a cup holder. Yes, the Nissan, unlike the BMW, did not utilise cup holders in the middle, and so you can actually get 3 people in the back of the car. So it does have 5 seats, which is great. The seats in the Nissan are very comfortable and very soft. There's certainly no complaints there. They're very adequate for what you require and very comfy. Yeah. Storage around the car seems quite adequate on the BMW. There seems to be enough places to put things and not to worry too much about cluttering the place up. Storage space inside the Nissan is probably a little bit less than adequate, but it's okay. There is some storage space, but it's not great and not as generous as you get in the BMW. Under the bonnet, there's a small amount of storage where you can keep your power cables and a few other bits and bobs, but not a lot really. Unlike the BMW, Nissan have made their mind to put some things under the bonnet, which means you have no storage here whatsoever. That's meant to look like an engine, but obviously it doesn't have one. The boot space on the i3 is pretty small. There's not a lot of room in there. It's a good job you don't need to keep your cables in there as well, but that is quite a small boot. The boot on the Nissan is a lot more generous than it is on the BMW. Sorry, it looks so dirty. So I have to say the BMW is quite an expensive option. It ranges from £33,000 to about 45 fully loaded with all the optional extras. But would I recommend it? I mean, driving the 2 cars, there's no comparison. The BMW is so much better to drive in many different ways than the Nissan Leaf. However, I can't get over the fact that it only has 4 seats and I've got 3 children. That means I just have to rule it out based on that. You know, unfortunately, a child leaving them at home alone is not really an option, which is a shame. It's a shame. It is a lot more money, but it's a lot more of a car. Price-wise, it was quite hard to get a straight price for the Nissan because what they wanted to do is to lease me the battery. I don't want to lease a battery, I want to buy it outright. Otherwise I end up upping my monthly contributions and that offsets the cost of the savings I'm making from the petrol. So I bought one that was a year or 2 old and therefore I didn't have to worry about leasing a battery. I was able to buy it outright and then that wasn't an issue. Anyway, the prices with a leased battery ranges from 17 to 24,000, so it's much less money than the BMW, but however you're buying the battery in the BMW as well. If you're buying the battery, it would probably be a lot more, and it was probably nearer sort of 26 to 30,000, so the prices are probably getting closer to that of the BMW. On the whole, I think the BMW is a better car, but I've had to go for the Nissan.